In this video, we are going to build a tic-tac-toe game. This is the finished product of what we are going to build. As you can see, we already have a winner here. Since we have a winner, if you click any of the empty boxes, nothing happens because there is already a winner. We have an indicator here which tells the next person to play the game. There's also a functionality for draw. If there's a tie, you can restart the game using this button. So, player 1, player 2, player 1, player 2, and player 1, player 2, and player 1, and player 2, and player 1. As you can see, we have a draw game. So this is what we are going to build in this video. Please stay tuned as I walk you through the process. So guys, here is a new React application I just created, and I'm going to run npm start. As you can see, this is a brand new React application. And here is it. It is currently running on localhost port 3000. So guys, the first thing we need to do is to install the library we want to use. So we're going to use the UI library, which is the Material UI. So you can go to mui.com/material-ui/getting started/installation. I'm going to copy the default installation. Open a new terminal here. Okay. Then I'm going to paste and install. Then the next installation we want to do is Bootstrap. You can go to getbootstrap.com. The current version is version 5.3.2. So I'm going to click this button to copy. I'm going to install Bootstrap. I'll come back when the installation has been completed. Bootstrap is now installed. Everything is still running. If you go to the default terminal, the next thing we want to do is to go to the component. Under the component, I want to use the container. I'll click on this and we have the container. So I'm going to use the first one. I'm going to show code. Okay, first of all, I need to copy the importation. So I'm going to copy this and take it to my app.js. I'm going to paste it here. Next, I'm going to copy this part of the code. Then I'm going to remove basically almost everything I have here. And I'm going to paste. Okay, we need a React. Copy this and put it here. Okay, so we're going to save and look at what we have. This is what we have. So we now have a container. So I'm going to reduce this height. Instead of 100 VH, I'm going to make it 50 VH. Save. We should have a good height. Now I also need to add some margin here. So I'm going to add margin at the top 5. Then there should be a margin at the top. The margin 5 is not working because we haven't linked Bootstrap. So we need to link Bootstrap here, and you can get that from /bootstrap/this css bootstrap.main.css. Okay, let me save. And good. There is a margin at the top. So I'm going to remove this app here and check the app.css. Okay, I'm also going to remove everything. And I want to have a simple class which is show cursor. Cursor is pointer and the font width is bold. All right. The next thing I want to do is to create a new file. So I'm going to create a new file and I will call this file action pane. Okay. Okay, for now the file is going to be empty, but I want to import that file in here. So I need to add an ending tag to the box. So I'm going to do that like this. Then I'm going to add action pane like this. So we're going to save, and basically everything should still remain the same. So we need to put some content in the action pane. So in the action pane, I'm going to use the grid. So I'm going to go back to the grid section. I'm going to use the grid V2. So this is the grid V2, and what I'm going to do is to expand this part of the code. So I'm going to copy the importation and back to my code. Okay, at the top, I want to paste all the imports. Then go back to the grid. There is an item here. I'm going to copy this too and paste this here. And I'm going to copy this grid box. Copy it. Okay, let me see. Yes. So I'm going to paste it here. So if we save now, we should have some content in our screen. Okay, so we have this box in our screen. All right, so what I'm going to do here is to reduce the box to 3. So I'm going to make this one 4. Then I'm going to remove this one. So this should give us 3 boxes. Okay, good. So next, we can duplicate this item in 2 places and save, and this will give us 9 boxes. Okay, good. So what I'm going to do is to reduce it back to 1. So I'm going to remove this, and we should have only 1 box. Okay, save, and you can see your screen. We now have only 1 box. So what I'm going to do is to dynamically render this box. To do that, we need to create another file. So I'm going to create another file, and I'll call this action box.gss. All right. So in this box, we need the grid content. So let me go to the action pane. I'm going to copy all the style and the grid, the paper, everything. Copy it, and I think I should just copy all the importation, including the React. So I'm going to copy everything. Then I'm going to paste everything here. Okay, so I also need to copy the grid box. So I'm going to copy this. Let me just cut it. So I'm going to cut it and move it here. Sorry, I shouldn't cut it. I'm going to do Control Z. Okay, I should only copy the grid inside, the one with size 4. Back to action box. Okay, then I'm going to paste it here. So we have the grid with an item. All right. So I'm going to go to the action pane, and I want to import the action box. Okay, so let us save and see what we have. So we still have the one box. Okay, to prove to you that this action box is the one displaying, so I'm going to comment this and save. And back to the browser, you can see we don't have anything. So this shows the action box is the one displaying. So uncomment and save. So we need to put some code into the action box. In this action box, we want to use useState, okay, which is the value. So I'm going to use useState to set the value, set value, and this is going to be useState, useState. So by default, this is going to be an empty string. Sorry about this. Okay. So by default, this is going to be an empty string. So this value here is what we are going to display this value inside the item. So I'm going to display this value in an h1 tag. Okay. So let us put some value here. So I'm going to put O here, and I'm going to save, and let us look what we have. So we now have O. If we change it to X, save, we should also have X. Great. Next, we need to set some click action so that when this item is clicked, some action should take place. So I'm going to do on click, on click. I want to call a function. So the name of that function is going to be click action. So on click action, there's going to be some property we're going to pass into this component. So let me just put it here. So it's going to be props, and since we're going to loop and display this, so I'm going to send in props dot index. So this function is currently not exist, so we need to create this function. Yeah, before we do that, so let me just assign the index. So the index is going to be prop dot index. We also have another property which is going to come later, and it's going to be a class. So this class, remember we created a class here which is called show cursor. Okay, the reason because we want to add a cursor here so that when you hover your mouse here, there should be a cursor. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to call the name of that class, which is show dash cursor. So in this class, I also want to add some some padding rather. So it's going to be pt-4. Then there's going to be a property we're going to pass here. I think I should just change this to string interpolation. So what I'm going to do is you can see this at the button before number 1. So I'm going to change this like this. So what I'm going to do here is to concatenate it with the incoming style. Okay, so the next thing I want to do is to create this function. So we need to create this function here. Sorry about that. So this function is going to take an index. As you can see here, this is the index. So we're sending back the prop index. We're passing it here. So we're going to use this to know the exact box we are going to click. So that if we click any of these box, it should show us the we should be able to differentiate the box using the particular index. So what I'm going to do here is there's also going to be another property that's going to come with the prop, which is on action box click. So this is going to be a function, right? On action box click, and we're going to pass in the index. Okay, let me correct this. Okay, so we need to get a result when we click this function. When we get a result, we need to set the value of that result. But before we set the value of that result, we need to do some checks. So what I'm going to check is um, is some incoming value from the prop. Mind you, we've not created this value, but we're going to create it along the line. So we just want to finish with this action box. So what I'm going to do is to check if there is result and the game is not over. So this is also coming from the props. Okay, is game over. Okay, so is not prop dot is game over dot is game over. So what this means is we are going to check if there's result first, and if the game is not over, then we want to set the value. So that is when we use this function. We want to set the value to the given result. So let's just save and see what we have. Okay, let's check. So you can see we now have a cursor here. We click. Okay, we run to an error. The reason we run to an error is because this action box click is not a function. Like I told you, we haven't created those functions yet and all these properties. So once you click, you're going to run to an error. So next, we're going to create all this function and the required properties. So let me refresh. All right. So next, we are going to write some code in action pane. You can see we're using action box in action pane. So we can decide to duplicate this into 4. Let us save. See what we have. We now have what 4 boxes. Okay. So what we want to do now is to dynamically render this box into 9 places. So to do that, I'm going to create a function. The name of that function is going to be display boxes, display action box. Okay, it doesn't take any parameter. There should be an equal to here. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to do is to declare a variable, and that variable is going to be display, which is going to be an empty array. So I want to use for loop. I want to use for loop to pass in the action box component. Okay, so I'm going to change this to I. So this is going to be I, and I is going to be less than 9. Okay, so it's going to start from 0 down to 8, not 9. So that's why you can see here it is less than 9. So for every loop, I want to push an item into display. So this is going to be display dot push action box. So we're going to push action box. Okay, so this is going to be action box. Okay, so at the end of the loop, sorry, there should be a key here. So I'm going to copy this function and paste it here. Sorry, invoke the function here. So let me save now and see how it is. You now see we now have what 9 boxes. It looked like we can reduce the space in between by changing this to 1. Let me save. Yes. we now have some good size. The next thing we want to do is to create this function on action box click. We need to create the function in this file. Let me minimize this. So to create that function, we also need to keep track of which particular box is being clicked and some other properties. So to do that, I'm going to create a JavaScript variable at the top. So I'm going to call this box tracker. This is going to be a default value of an object. This is going to be an object that holds a value between 0 to 8. So 0 is going to be null up to 8. As you can see, we have the variable of the box tracker, which is an object of 0 to 9. Each and every one of them is null. So next, we also need to keep track of how many box has been clicked. Okay, so to do that, there's going to be a JavaScript variable, and this is going to be counter is equals to 0. Sorry, I should have let here. This is going to be let. Good. So the next thing I want to do, okay, let me give some space here. The next thing I want to do is to use the useState variable. So I'm going to use a useState variable to get the current player. So I'm going to get the current player and set current player. Okay, so this is going to be useState. useState. Okay, Reactor's useState is going to be useState, and the first player should be player 1. Also, we also need a container which we will use to display the winner of the game, and we also need to check if the game is over or not. So this is going to be an object. So I'm going to call this is game over. Is game over. Set is game over. Okay, so this is also going to be useState. So like I said, it's going to be an object, and I'll call this winner is an empty string. So game over should be false by default. Sorry, don't know what's happening to my keyboard. The last property we want to create is styling. If you remember, go back to action box, you can see we are mapping a style to this item. Okay, so we need to create that style. It's going to be a dynamic style so that when we have a winner, the box should be green. Okay, so to do that, we're going to create a variable, and this variable is going to be box style. Okay, set box style. Okay, so this is also going to be an object, and this is going to be an object from 0 to 8. Okay, it's going to be an object from 0 to 8 with the value of an empty string. As you can see, we have the value from 0 to 8. So we want to create a function on action box click, and this function is going to be here. Let me give some space. Okay, so this is the name of the function, and if you remember, we are passing an index to the function, which is this. We're passing the prop.index. We're passing it as an index here, and you can see, so it needs the index. So I'm going to put I as the index. Okay, so when there is a click action, I want to keep track of the boss. So the first check I want to do is to check if the tracking container is empty. So what I'm going to do is, if the boss tracker of the given index is not equal to null. Okay, sorry, I'm going to change this. If is equal to null. So the first check I will do is to keep track of the boss tracker of the particular index. So what I'm going to do is, if the boss tracker of this particular index is not equal to null, that means it is not empty. So if it is not empty, I will just have to return null. It means that box has been filled up with something. The next check we should do is to check if the current player is either player 1 or player 2. So we're going to check if the current player is equal to 1. Okay, so we want to perform the following action in favor of what? Player 1. But first thing we need to do is to set the current player to player 2, since player to player 2, yes, since player 1 is the person that click the box, so the next person should be what? Player 2. Then for player 1, we want to set his own type of value to X. So we're going to do that by boss tracker of the particular index is going to become X. You can give it any value you want. Okay, let me scroll up. So the next thing is, we also want to keep track of how many box has been clicked. That is where this counter here comes to play. So we are going to do counter plus equals to 1. So this helps us to keep track of how many box has been clicked. So at the end of the function, we want to return the value X. Okay. So I'm going to do same thing for player 2. So instead of doing if current player is equals to 2, so what we just do is else. So if it's not player 1, definitely is going to be player 2. So I'm going to copy all this here and set it to the opposite. Okay, so this should be what? Player 1. And this should not be X, this should be O. Okay, this should be the same, and this should be O. So guys, let us save everything and test the program to this extent. Okay, remember we need to update the function. Okay, so we haven't passed the function to the action box. Okay, so if we try to click, we're going to run through an exception. You can see, okay, because it has not been passed to action box as a prop. So I'm going to pass in some property to action box. So the name of this function, I'm going to copy it and pass it here. On action box click is going to be pointing to on action box click. Okay, so the next thing I want to do is the index. Okay, we already have an index, and I also want to pass is game over. Okay, so I'm going to pass is game over. Is game over is equal to is game over. Okay, so the next one is the style. Okay, so to pass in the style, let me break this to a new line. To pass in the style, every action box has its own index. So this is going to be style is equals to the box style of the particular index. So the index is what? I. Okay, So the styling can fall in any of these. Okay, so I'm going to save and we should test our application. So we have X by default. So let me remove all the value here, the default value. So I'm going to remove this, save. Everything should be empty. Okay. I think we need to add some styling to see to expand the screen. So let us add some styles. So even though we can click now and add a value, we need to set the default height of this box. Okay, so to do that, I'm going to expand the item, then I'm going to set the height to 100. Okay, so I'm going to save. Yes, so you can see these boxes at the top has not been clicked, but the height is now 100, and we can easily click it and have a value. Okay, as you can see, we've gotten the application to an extent, so I'm going to refresh. So if I click here, we have X. The next click is going to be O, and the next one will be X. So it goes from X O X O X O in that arrangement. The next thing I want to do is to add an indicator. So I'm currently on action pane. I'm currently on action pane and I want to add the indicator of the next player. So under the grid, I'm going to create a div. Then this div, I'm going to add a class. So it's going to be a class name. And this card is going to be a card. And I'm going to give it a margin top of 3. Then with a light background. Okay. And I think I should change the text to text dash primary. Okay. So in this container, I'm going to add h6. No, this should be h6. And this h6 should be current player. Okay, so if we save and let us look at it, so we have just two here. So we should add a text. So this text will be like next player. Okay. So if we save, you can see we have next player. So I'm going to reload. And what you will notice is as we are clicking from one box to another, the next player is changing. So next player is what? Player 1. Next player is player 2, player 1, player 2, and so on. Okay. So the next thing I want to do is to indicate if there is a winner. If there's a winner in the game, we want to indicate that. Under this div, I'm going to create another div. And this div, I'm going to give it a class. Class name. So I'm going to make the text to be center and a light background, bg dash light, and a bold text. This is font dash weight dash bold. I'm going to invoke the variable which is game over dot winner. So I'm going to put this in h1 tag. Okay, I need the ending tag. Okay, good. Save. Okay, so since there is no winner, I'm not sure something will display at the bottom. So nothing will display. So the next thing we need is a button. We need a button to restart the game. So for the button, I'm going to duplicate this part. And I'm going to use this one. I am going to remove this. So I'm going to add some margin at the top. I'm going to have mt-5 and mb dash 4. So next I'm going to create a button. I'm going to create a button. Then the text will be restart. Okay. And we need to add some class here. So this is going to be btn dash lg for large, and btn dash danger. So let us save and see how it looks. So save and back to the browser. Good. We have a restart button. Now we need to add a function to this button. So this is going to be on click. On click, we need to map it to a function. So I'm going to call the name of this function restart game. This function has not been created. That is why it's showing like this. So I'm going to copy the name of the function, and I want to create that function. Okay, let me minimize this. I want to create that function somewhere here. Okay, so constant, the name of the function. And what this function is going to do is to restart the game. So to restart the game, we just need to call window dot location dot reload. Okay, so what it's going to do is to restart the window. Okay, save, and we'll go back to the browser. So I can click on this button now, reload. Okay, good. So I can click on any of these and reload. Okay, so the next thing we want to achieve is how to determine if someone has won the game. So now you can see all the click action are working, and you can see another thing you notice is once there's a value in an item, you can't click it again. It's not clickable. It doesn't return anything. Okay, so that works. So what is next is we need to determine if there is a winner, if there is a draw, or and if the winner is either player 1 or the winner is either player 2. Okay, to determine the winner, we need one extra function which is going to do that for us. Okay, so let me minimize this. Good. So the name of that function is going to be, I'm going to call that function result manager. Okay, it doesn't take any parameter. So we're going to keep track of each and every box that has been clicked, and we also want to check if any of these boxes, which is this or this. In fact, let me display the index so that I can explain properly. So I'm going to display the index, and let me add the index here. Okay, remember the value is prop dot index. So I'm going to copy this value and I'm going to display it here. So save. Let us see what we have. Okay, so now we want to check if this box 0, 1, 2 has the same value. We're also going to check if 0, 3, 6 has the same value. We're also going to do the same thing for 0, 4, 8 if it has the same value, this and this. Okay, so we also want to check, let me restart this. So we're also going to check if 3, 4, 6 has the same value, if 6, 7, 8 has the same value. So we are going to do a check, right, for every 3 item in these positions if they have the same value. Remember that player 1 has its own return value as X, while player 2 has its own return value as O. Okay, so if the value in this straight line, if they are the same, definitely player 1 is the winner. Okay, and if it is the other way around, player 2 is the winner. Okay, so let me remove the index which we add. back to action pane. So we're going to check. Remember, we have some value already in the box tracker, and that is what we're going to use. So if the box tracker of if the value at this index is equal to x, and let me copy this, and the value at this index, which is 012, okay, and this one, if it's all equal to x, it means we have player one as the winner. So let me bring back the indicator. Okay, so it means we have player one as the winner. So I'm going to do set is game over. So it's game over. It's going to be two properties. So it's going to be the winner, and the text we want to put here is player one wins. And also we want to set the other property, which is game over is equals to true. So we need to invoke this function. So we want to invoke this function on action click, an action box click. So I'm going to put it before the return statement. Okay, I'm going to do the same thing here before the return statement. So now note this index, which is 0 is equals to x, 1 is equals to x, and 2 is equals to x. So let me save and let us test index 0, 1, 2. So we want to test index 0, 1, 2. So if it's equals to x, yes, I'm going to click the bottom. X is x. So we have player ones win. And since since the game is won, you can see I'm trying to click any of these, is not working because we now have a winner. Also, something is missing here. We need to set the style, which is the CSS class, which is going to change this to green. Okay, let us do that. If we go to action box and let me add style, so I'm going to do bg dash sources, save, and go back to the browser. You can see we have all the background are now green. Also, we can add text dash white, save. You can see we have the green background and the content is white. So we need to add this style dynamically. Let me reverse what I've done. Okay, so back to action pane. When there is a winner, we need to add that class here. So that is why we need to set the property of box style. So we need to set that property here. So we're going to set the style to we're going to get a previous value first. Then we want to return an object of the previous, and we want to set the value of the same index here. So this is going to be the value at index 0. So this is going to be bg dash sources, and the text is going to be white. Okay, so we're going to do the same thing for the next index, and the next index is index 1. So this is it, and the next is index 2. Okay, so let us test this. So I'm going to save, back to my browser. So I'm going to click this under. I'm going to click index 1, click under. I'm going to click index 2. So it goes blank. Okay. Let us check what is happening. So this is bg-sources text-white. So the classes here are correct. Okay, show cursor dash pt dash 4. So this class is correct, but we need to add a space here so that this class will not be something like this after it has been added. So there should be a space here. So let us save and back to the browser. We now have the green color. So we have the green color and the text is white. Okay, so we're going to do the same thing for O. So back to our code, back to action pane. So I'm going to repeat this same action for O. Then I'm going to duplicate this line. I've already configured my VS Code to duplicate the line, so you can do that. Mine is Ctrl Z. You can test it on yours. Sorry, mine is Ctrl D. So it gives me a new line. It copied the same content to a new line. Okay, so if this is O and this is O, note that this is capital O and also capital X, and they all must be the same. Okay, so if this is O, we should also have the same text, but this time it should be player 2 wins. Okay, I believe this is gonna work. So let us save and test for player 2. Restart the game. So this time player 1 should kick down. We have player 2. We have player 2. And we have player 2. Good. Player 2 wins. So since you've gotten the logic the way it is, you now have to do this same thing for all the position. So you're gonna do that for this position, this, you're gonna do that for this, you're gonna do that for this, and you're also gonna do that for this, the diagonal. You're gonna do that for this, and you're also gonna do that for this. Okay, back to my code. I'm gonna do that quickly and come back. So I'm gonna add a comment here. I'm gonna call it the second. Then I'm going to copy this part, copy and paste it here. Okay, so for the next one we want to do is for 3 4 5. Okay, so all we need to do is to change this to what, 3, and we'll go here, 4, and for this it's going to be 5. So this should also be the same, 3, and here should be 4, and here should be what, 5. We need to do the same thing for O, 3, and here should be 4, and here should be 5. Okay, we also need to update the style, 3, and here should be 4, and here should be 5. So let's test this. Back to the browser, restart. So this time we want to text this index 3 4 5. So first player, second player, first player, second player, first player. Excellent. This works as expected. Let us test for second player. So first player, second player, first player, second player, first player, and second player. Excellent. It works perfectly. So I am going to pause the video and make sure I set the value for all the possible um, angles. Okay. So after setting the possible angle, we need to also do one more thing, which is draw. If there is a draw game, right? So let me finish with setting up all the possible angles. Then I'm going to come up with how to define if the game is a draw or not. So guys, I have completed the setup for all the possible 8 chances of winning. So we have the first chance of winning, which is 0, 1, 2. The second chance 3, 4, 5. The third 6, 7, 8. Then 0, 3, 6. Then 1, 4, 7. Then 2, 5, 8. And 0, 4, 8. Then 6, 4, 2. So all the possible chance has been created. So you're gonna see it in action. You can see player one wins. So this is it. So now, how do we define if the game is draw? So to know if the game is draw, at the end of this sorry, at the middle of this function, we're incrementing the value of counter, and you know we have 9 boxes in total. It starts from 0 and end at the index 8. So if all the boxes has been clicked, then the game is draw without a winner. Okay, this result manager function is very big. I believe there can be a way we can create an helper function so that we can pass in some variables and it's going to return the result for us. But however, I don't want to get things too complicated. So you can do it on your own. If you can, you can simplify the function or create an helper function that will receive an index and return the exact value. So it won't be longer like mine. All right, so to check if it's draw is very simple. So we're going to check if the counter is equals to 9. So if the counter is equals to 9, it means all the box has been clicked. So I'm going to set is game over. Then I'm going to set the winner property to draw game. Then I'm also going to set the game over property, which is a boolean, to true. Okay, so let's test this. Save and back to the browser, restart the game. Okay, so player 1, player 2, player 1, player 2, player 1, player 2, then player 1 again, then player 2, then player 1. So we have a draw game. So guys, this is all about the tic-tac-toe game. If you find this video helpful, please ensure you like the video, increase the video algorithm, and ensure you subscribe. Guys, thank you very much for watching.